Hi, this is Mike Brakey. This is Black Swan Climate Theory. This is the June edition. This is part 4 of 6. In this, one of the key issues is since 1998, Maine's climate history, in my opinion, has been mathematically rewritten to lower temperatures 254 degrees. That's over 90, almost 93,000 heating degree days, and it's been distributed over the last 120 years strategically. Now, when confronted with this, NOAA's Derek Arndt response was the new method used stations in neighboring Canada to inform estimates. I suspect he meant to form estimates for data sparse areas within Maine, and he states this is a great improvement. Well, we'll get into this in this section. As I said, between 1998 and 2014, I've estimated that NOAA has used several algorithms, two or more, to historically rewrite the history of Maine between 1895 and 2014. And as we cited on the prior page, he indicated yes, there were big differences seen in Maine, but the reason is that they brought in Canadian data. Now, I suspect he's alluding to the upper sections here of Maine, although Maine is broken up on their website into a number of different sections that has individual information. I am going to take advantage of that in this section so that we have a different way of analyzing Maine's weather so that we can take Canada out as a possible red herring. I don't want any smoke and mirrors thrown in through NOAA's explanations, and I'll show you how we are able to accomplish that. As we saw in the April presentation, there's 32 zones in Maine, and we've mentioned the Farmington one that I came across just recently from an earlier study. Um, our data from Lewiston Auburn comes from Zone 19, which would be one of the interior Maine southern zone areas. And so Zone 19 also happens to be the second largest community outside of Portland down here. And so we've got these two zones, both very similar in data. And with the data from Lewiston Auburn, we have this historic treasure trove of information on raw data month by month going back 120 years. The dark line, as we've discussed in the earlier presentation from April, we use an 11-year solar average so that it's responsive, and we can see minute changes without getting into the forest of individual years. Now, the NOAA Climate Data website provides, as I said earlier, an option that permits us to choose a closer investigation of NOAA heating degree days versus actual historical data right around Zone 19. So here's Zone 19 data from the Lewiston Auburn area. And what we see here is that there's no doubt in my mind that between 1926 and 1998, there was probably perfect agreement between NOAA's data and the historical data. And the reason I suspect that is the case is because over that period of time, it all indicated accurately that we were in a global warming trend. So NOAA has an option for Maine titled CD2 called Southern Interior. So instead of looking at the whole state of Maine NOAA data versus Zone 19, we are going to look at a smaller area that encompasses 13 and 19 combined. So if we go to their website, we put in all the same information we did for all of Maine, but now we're going to select CO2 Southern Interior, and if I click, you'll see it's covering this region. Might also include 14 and 22. They don't specifically say, but it does encompass 19 and 13, which we have data for. As of 1999, as I said earlier, both LA and NOAA's CD2 Southern Interior histories were probably identical and in general agreement and lockstep. So if I was to look at our historic data from there, where here is the um, uh, Zone 19 historic heating degree days, and we've done a database ranking of the different years. What were the 10 most coldest and 10 warmest? I have no doubt they would have all been in lockstep with each other, and they would have agreed. And then if we looked at the ensuing years and the warming trend that occurred beginning after 1926, about here, as temperatures are elevating, as we saw in the prior graph, we would expect to start seeing some of the peaks over the balance of the history of the 76 years of warming we had. And that's exactly what we see. And the 10 warmest years were found between 1949 and 1998. Uh, and this is up through 1998. And again, we would see that everything's in lockstep because NOAA had no reason to want to improve or enhance the data as of 1998 or 1999. So both listed 98 as the warmest year and 1904 as the coldest, as can be illustrated here. So here we are through 1998, and then let's let history continue on with local climate temperatures. The 11-year timeline begins displaying a third regional cooling period over the last 120-year period here. Now, that might be a disappointment to NOAA or those in charge of NOAA, because not only does that bring attention to this black swan event, but it also reminds people that over the 120-year period, there were two prior global warming, global cooling events. So what I contend in my theory they have done over the next 16 years through a series of algorithms, they have net-wise lowered temperatures, and then they had to do some further tweaking in these algorithms because they needed to bring this tip down here, and they had to bring this also down a bit and swing this up. And so these algorithms were set up to do the following. As we can see here, here's the master algorithm that's in effect as of early 2014. So though they've reduced the significance of the global cooling periods in these, they've pulled this down, so now we have a sustained global warming trend, again going back at least into the 1950s. I suspect if they were doing any further algorithms, it wouldn't surprise me to see these humps here taken out. So NOAA likely wishes the original LA Zone 19 history data with no algorithm would eventually fade away and be forgotten. And here is the algorithm results today in Maine. And as I contended earlier, it's the same algorithm that I believe is applied to other states and across the United States. So LA Zone 19 with the NOAA master algorithm to make improved record of climate change has essentially lowered our history 254 degrees. If we were to look today, after 1998, NOAA heating degree days were no longer in lockstep with local figures. Not even NOAA's 2015 data was in lockstep with in NOAA's 2013 data for Maine's southern interior. So I have the same issues for Maine's southern interior that I found for all of Maine. And the question is, are they going to contend that they applied those same Canadian stations for southern Maine, also a highly populated area? NOAA's uh, heating degree day varies in both quantity and distribution over the entire 120-year span. So now what you're going to find is where we historically had some of the coldest times back here. They're shifting around for NOAA. And if we look at heating degree days, where we do agree that there was one of the top tens, they have shifted in the importance because what has happened now is whereas I only have 3 or 4 of the warmer years in the last 25, they're heavily populated in heating degree days in the present. The LA and NOAA only find agreement in that 1904 remains the coldest year, and 1998 is still number one hottest year on our record of local events, but it was ranked number 4 in NOAA's 2013 time period, and by 2014 it has dropped to 5. As you can see over here, the way they have altered temperatures in the past, they're now showing more heavy population of number 1, number 2, and number 3 hottest years in the recent years based on their algorithms. And so as we draw to a close here, what we've seen, as I said before, is 1904, both the raw data and NOAA's algorithm, master algorithm, agreed that 1904 is still the coldest year in recent history, but they have lowered it 3 degrees Fahrenheit from what we have recorded. And if we look at the hottest year recorded in local data, it'd be 1998. It's now ranked number 5 with NOAA, and they've lowered this about 1.5 degrees. So it is a major rewrite of history for their enhanced and improved data in the opinion of NOAA. And so that ends this section, and we'll now get into part 5 as I'm trying to do a hologram of algorithms to look at this from all perspectives. And we'll get into this in the next section. Thank you for listening.